it seems like it took all morning to drive here, but we finally arrived. Look at this, everyone. Downtown Los Angeles. As many of you know by now, I am starting my trip down old Route 66. So why in the world are we spending our morning in downtown Los Angeles? Well, as you may or may not know, but we'll certainly learn, Route 66 was not a coast-to-coast highway. Route 66 traveled from Chicago to LA. Of course, since I live in Southern California, I live near the end of Route 66, and the cliche image of the end of Route 66 is the Santa Monica Pier and the Pacific Ocean. But what many people don't know, and what I certainly didn't know until very recently, is that originally Route 66 did not end with a beautiful view of the Pacific Ocean. As a matter of fact, the original 1926 ending of Route 66 was right here. Right in downtown Los Angeles. At the corner of 7th Street and Broadway. Look right up there. The sign isn't very large and it's kind of high up, so it's hard to read. But if you squint your eyes hard enough at that little sign, you'll learn that from 1926 all the way up to 1939, this was the payoff of the Mother Road, the Main Street of America, the Will Rogers Highway, Route 66. Downtown LA is getting better, but it's still a little scuzzy down in this area, as most, major city downtowns are. But back in the 1920s and 30s, this was a jumping part of one of the biggest cities on the West Coast. Route 66 dunked people right off here in the old school theater district of Los Angeles, where these sumptuous movie palaces were dotting the landscape. World War II hadn't come yet, so all that suburban expansion hadn't come yet. Everybody lived down here in Los Angeles, and even into the 40s, where my great aunt and uncle moved down here to Los Angeles and took Route 66 to get here. Downtown LA was quite a hip and happening place. Nowadays, at this spot anyway, there's not that much to remind you of the old cliche Route 66, wide open spaces, open road, sort of scenery. But since I live in Southern California, which means I live at the end of Route 66, I thought I would begin my journey at the end, or rather begin my journey at the beginning of the end, since this was the first end of the Route 66 before it moved and changed endings, and then we have a beginning there at starting at the end. Yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on the old Los Angeles portions of Route 66, at least not on this portion of our journey, or we'll be trapped here for weeks. But the original ending of the Mother Road, that is definitely something that was worth coming and stopping to take a look at. Now, like I said, there's not much of the quirky Route 66 roadside attraction or wide open vistas here to see. But a stone's throw away from the intersection where Route 66 originally ended is this. Clifton's Cafeteria since 1932. Clifton's has been serving up meals inside of their very highly themed dining rooms down here in downtown Los Angeles. Not too long ago, we got a sneak peek right before they opened the new Clifton's Pacific Seas right up here. So tiki fans and history buffs will love this place alike. Since 1931, Clifford Clinton has been serving up meals in downtown LA. This, though, is the oldest surviving of the 8 of Clifton's restaurants. And I believe it's the oldest public cafeteria-style eatery left in the world. Could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Now, we could, should, and will spend an entire day looking at Clifton's at some point, and I'm taking an awful risk stepping inside those doors. But I can't just walk away without showing you guys at least a little peek. Look at this place, constructed in the heyday of the original 1920s and 30s Route 66. It is themed to the nines. Where else are you gonna see a buffalo in downtown Los Angeles, huh? Or have a drink at the bar underneath the giant redwood tree. Yeah, Clifton's is something else, I tell ya. Honestly, all that is the tip of the iceberg. Look, come and explore our photo cave, huh? A photo cave. Check out these crazy tables. And check out this little chapel in here where you're supposed to reflect on the woods. A little stone chapel. Now, it's very dark and a little creepy inside of here, and you can barely see this diorama. But it is kind of a cool place to stop and reflect. Okay, I cannot get any more in-depth about Clifton's at the moment. Needless to say, this is a very cool place to check out if you're looking for weird things in downtown Los Angeles. And if you're on a LA Route 66 quest, this is definitely a must stop. Okay, we could spend hours in there. I'm glad we got away so lightly. Now, Route 66 was one of the earliest national highways. So the original 1926 highway was a lot more worried about getting its entire route paved than exactly where it left off. Part of trying to build these newfangled, cool national highways is that each highway is supposed to end at another highway, so it never leaves you high and dry stranded as it would right now if you were to stop here in downtown LA. So in 1939, on the eve of World War II, sorta, the end of Route 66 was moved from 7th and Broadway right down here, much farther west. And that's where we're headed next. So long, downtown Los Angeles. So long, original terminus of Route 66. We've got a lot more to see. Now, it probably would have been a little bit easier just to bring my Mustang down here, but I had to bring old Jiminy, you know, this rental car here. Because if I'm going all the way from LA to Chicago, the entire Route 66, I figured the car should drive the whole thing. All right, time for us to cruise back through that intersection, away from downtown Los Angeles and towards Santa Monica, California. And the official end of Route 66. Look at this. This is it, guys. After it moved away from downtown Los Angeles, right here on the corner of Olympic and Lincoln and Santa Monica became the terminus, the end of Route 66. As you can see, it's not exactly the most hoppin' intersection on the planet, but it is rather historic. If you were coming from Chicago, you would take your car west through Hollywood, down Santa Monica Boulevard, take a left on Lincoln here, and then right here, bam! End of the trail, right here, dead ending into the Pacific Coast Highway. Nowadays, you have Interstate 10 right there, taking the place of the old Route 66. So this intersection is mostly just your typical freeway overpass kind of deal. Although excitingly, you can see that this historic Mel's Drive-In is being restored here and will open this summer. So there's not much to see here at the old end of Route 66 at the moment, but hey, coming pretty soon, you can have a little meal here. Now, of course, if this is the end of Route 66 for people coming from Chicago, that also means that for people like us who are headed eastbound from California to Chicago on Route 66, this isn't the end, this is the beginning. And this is the official beginning of our journey. Of course, as you can see, the official end / beginning of Route 66 is not all that scenic. I mean, we're in a beach city, and I can smell the ocean, but you can't even see the beach. Which is why the official ending is right here, but the traditional ending is in a whole different place. After several blocks of driving from the official ending, we come to where the sidewalk ends. Ladies and gentlemen, just beyond that sign is the Pacific Ocean. That's right. Welcome, everyone, to the Santa Monica Pier, the traditional ending of Route 66. Also, the beginning of Three's Company. Come and knock on our door. Wow, it's been a hot minute since I've been over here. They got a lot of stuff going on in the Santa Monica Pier. Plenty of treats and snacks and souvenirs, some carnival rides, a giant Ferris wheel, and plenty of extremely weird entertainment. This pier is the spot where traditionally, since the 1930s, people who are traveling the entire length of Route 66 mark the end of their journey. The last time I was out here, I was with my friend Oscar. We were watching a crazed man in a top hat kick a chicken right under the pier there. I want to talk about the end of Route 66, but first we got to make it to the end of the pier. There's just so much going on down here. All right, here it is. The end of the line. This is as far as we can possibly go out over the Pacific Ocean before we turn back east towards Chicago. Wait a minute. Do you realize what this means? It means that this is our historic first step in our journey of 2,400 and some odd. See, it really depends on who you ask. Miles down Route 66. I've got to be honest with you, as much as I love history, it does somehow feel much more appropriate that our journey would begin here, where there's a healthy dose of tourist trap goodness rather than in downtown LA. Look at that lady right there. She's all alone on that roller coaster. I cannot tell you guys how stoked I am for this. It's been an entire year since I set out across country to Georgia. I followed Route 66 for a huge chunk of that trip, but I had to tear myself away to complete my mission. And it's taken me an entire year to finally be able to head, it's very distracting here, to finally head out to complete my mission. The bucket list level journey. A solo ride down Route 66. You see this sign right here behind me? This is important. This sign here marking the end of the trail in Santa Monica is a 2009 replica, a relative newcomer. It was placed there on the 83rd birthday of Route 66 by the owner of that little shop right there, 66 to Cali, a guy by the name of Dan Rice, who noticed that every year thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands or millions of people were coming to visit the Santa Monica Pier at the ends of their journeys down Route 66, and they were coming here to photograph themselves with nothing, because there was literally nothing to mark the end of the trail. So they opened up the 66 to Cali gift shop here so that there would at least be something, and stuck these nifty signs in the windows here to give tourists like me a nice photo op. Now that's a pretty fun pic right there, but Dan Rice decided that there should be something more. So he started doing a little research into Route 66 in Santa Monica, like how did the pier become the spiritual end of the route? Well, it was during this historical research, trying to find something a little more official than just his gift shop down there, that they ran across photographs of something pretty interesting. Right here on the bluffs overlooking Pacific Coast Highway. At some point way back in the 1930s, some director of some long forgotten movie decided that this was a much more scenic ending to Route 66 than that official ending we were looking at earlier. And they placed the original version of that Route 66 end of the trail sign somewhere right along these bluffs overlooking the pier and the ocean. And then they just left it there. So naturally, since motorists had come all this distance and wanted to see the beach, and this is the closest beach to the end of Route 66, the sign became iconic, not just for families who were ending their trips here, but also for postcards and posters and such like, eventually leading people to believe that this was the actual end of Route 66. Then one day, just as mysteriously as the sign appeared, it vanished. And even though long after it ceased to be an official US highway, Route 66 became so legendary and so many tourists from all around the world started driving it, it wasn't until 2009 that the sign down there returned. Look at this right here. Those were German tourists completing a trip down Route 66. Now imagine, this Santa Monica Pier sign was the only fun pick opportunity to mark the end of 2,400 miles? Don't get me wrong, that's a pretty iconic sign. But between you, me, the floor, and the ceiling, I feel like this is a much more fitting photo finish for the end of a trip. And apparently a whole crap ton of tourists from around the world agree with me. There have been people taking pictures with this sign the entire time I've been here. They just keep on lining up. And I've heard almost as many languages spoken in front of this sign as I did up on the Eiffel Tower. That is pretty cool. What an epic place for a fun pic. Of course, as much time as I've spent on Route 66, and believe me, I've spent a lot of time on that highway, more than most people who've done the trip. Despite all that, I've never actually finished the entire trip. Don't get me wrong, at this point I've driven the whole road, but in fits and starts, in little tiny chunks and pieces. That's why I'm not gonna take a fun pic next to this sign yet. I'm leaving this as my reward for the day that I return, having driven all 2,440 some odd miles, LA to Chicago, and then hopefully back to LA. Alright, now speaking of the open road, I can hear it calling me. See how I've spent an entire day just talking about the various ends of Route 66? I could spend another entire day just talking about the history of this pier. I think it's best if we get a move on, because we've certainly got a lot of ground to cover, and we're still sitting on that red dot. All right, just one last long look at the Pacific Ocean, and I'm good. I think the best bet is to cruise the Route 66 portions of LA as fast as possible for the beginning of our trip. That way I leave something for the end of the trip once I get back to California. Because knowing me, I'm gonna have a hard time letting go of the mother road. Looks like we're getting a little peek of sunshine here after all, as we make our way back over to Olympic Boulevard, back to where we were at the official beginning of Route 66, and then back onto old Route 66. Look up there on the right. there it is, the historic begin sign. Now, I'm not always going to be super rigid about doing every exact old section all the time, but wherever it's practical, wherever it's possible, I'm going to do my best to avoid the interstate and take the old parts of Route 66, like the surface streets and different frontage roads and things. Even though for us today, that's going to mean me hitting quite a lot of traffic heading down Santa Monica Boulevard through West LA, heading eastwards, ever eastwards. Of course, stop and go traffic across Los Angeles isn't really anyone's idea of a crazy party, so it's a little bit of a weird beginning. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Pretty wild to think of all the people who live in Santa Monica and West LA and probably don't realize that the Mother Road is there right at their fingertips. I think most people, even before the movie Cars, had a picture in their head of like a Radiator Springs type of place out in the desert with beautiful vistas when they think of 66. But the truth is, Chicago, St. Louis, Los Angeles, there's a lot of big cities on our route. We'll probably be encountering quite a bit of traffic. Check this out. All the way through Santa Monica into West LA, there's a Mormon temple. And right across the street, a bus ad for free HIV tests. So just running the gamut here. I was just thinking that in its heyday, Route 66 was no different to the people who drove on it than, say, the interstate would be to us, in the sense that they didn't drive all the way to the end of it just for the sake of driving to the end of it. So a lot of the people who drove the old highway probably never even reached this portion of it. They probably got off a long ways before this. But if you do drive this road, you do see quite a lot of LA. It's a pretty good tour of LA right over there. There's the Jewish synagogue. You got Beverly Glen right here, and you come pretty dang close to Beverly Hills and Bel Air. Pretty close. Who am I kidding? You go right through it. There's just a little bit of everything on this road. Straight in front of us now. I'm sure you probably can't see, but I can see the Hollywood sign in the hills there in the distance. And then right over here on my left, there's the entrance to the Beverly Hilton over there. You know what I just realized? We're traveling the same road that the Beverly Hillbillies would have had to travel. Man, you guys are lucky. You get to ride this out in time lapse. I gotta sit in traffic. We just need to get across LA today. Please, let's go! We have to get out of Los Angeles so we can get our kicks on Route 66. See, now here we are in Beverly Hills. Don't believe me? Just read the sign. So I guess we're getting across town, slowly but surely. It's weird to think that Lucille Ball lived right over in these neighborhoods during the filming of I Love Lucy. Whenever I go on a road trip, I think of those classic I Love Lucy road trip episodes. Oh yeah. Look at that, there's the Troubadour over there. We are definitely in West Hollywood. Bet you never knew the world famous Troubadour was right on Route 66, huh? I gotta be honest with you guys, I never even realized that. Alright, it's taken a while and it's been pretty stop and go, but I think we're just about at the point where we're going to leave West Hollywood and head into plain old regular Hollywood. It smells like you're in here in Hollywood. It doesn't matter if you don't like it or if you disagree, cause that's how it smells up in here. Yeah, this part of Hollywood on old Santa Monica Boulevard is not exactly the most picturesque or famous part of Hollywood. But Hollywood it is. And Hollywood's gonna have to wait for another day because we gotta burn through this place and head back towards downtown Los Angeles. Don't get me wrong, I don't want you guys to think that we're just gonna burn through everything on Route 66 this quickly. Au contraire, actually, I'm planning on taking it low and slow. But here, there's 50, almost 60 years of modern LA built on top of the old Mother Road. And since I live out here, I know I can always come and explore this part of Route 66 anytime I want. So we're gonna blast through Hollywood on Santa Monica Boulevard, past Hollywood Forever Cemetery, past all the old movie studios, all the way down to where Santa Monica Boulevard runs into Sunset Boulevard, and then head south towards old downtown. All right, we did it. We made our way through Los Angeles from Santa Monica, cruising down old Route 66. As expected, that took literally all day. And now our ending music is about to begin as we take one of the first freeways ever, the Arroyo Seco Parkway, which, as part of Route 66, connected downtown Los Angeles to Pasadena. A lot of traffic right now going to this Dodger game up the hill, and it's already 6 o'clock, so the sun's gonna go down soon. We're gonna pick up the trail tomorrow, guys. For now, we've done our duty. We can go home and sleep well. Wait a minute. Pawnee, Indiana is off of Route 66? Ron Swanson's in there. Weird.